everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different from normal reading videos, and this one is going to be geared a little bit more towards the writer in me / the bookworm. So today I'm going to be doing a pro and con list of what it's like to be an English major in college. It is summertime right now. It's the season of graduations and change and new beginnings and all kinds of crazy stuff that is happening. And I remember what this time was like for me a couple of years ago. Well, a couple of years ago at this time, I was getting ready to get married, but 3 years ago at this time, I was beginning college, and college was very scary for me. I didn't really have too much of a plan, and the plan I did have ended up changing a lot throughout the time that I've been in school. I'm still in school, and I've just entered my last full year of classes, so I'm going to be taking summer classes for a couple of semesters this semester and then next summer, and then I will be graduating with my Bachelor of Arts in English. And I am very grateful that despite the fact that I've moved a few times and gotten married and done all of this stuff, I will still be graduating in 2020, which was the year I was always supposed to be graduating. I graduated high school in 2016, and it has been a very interesting experience full of lots of ups and downs and different experiences and different things that happened. So I just kind of wanted to run through what I think are the good parts of majoring in English and what I think are the bad parts. And I want to preface this by saying, first of all, that you don't have to major in English to be a writer. Lots of writers I know major in business or marketing or communications or a variety of other fields. If you're a writer, maybe you already know everything you want to know about writing and about the craft of writing, so you don't need to major in that. But if you want to be a self-published author, maybe it would be better for you to major in business or marketing or something like that. Or you just want to get a major in a different field like education or science or something, so you can have something to do that's not strictly writing related. There's a lot of reasons why a writer might choose not to be an English major, but for me, I definitely chose to major in English because I specifically wanted to know more about the craft. I felt like I was a good writer and I was a competent writer, but I wanted to know more of the details and the ins and outs of writing and what makes good writing. I also want to preface this by saying that this is my personal experience as a writing major and an English major, and this isn't necessarily related to everyone's experience. I spent the first half of my studies studying through Grand Canyon University for a BA in English with an emphasis in professional writing, and the second half of my education will be through California Baptist University, where I transferred to after I moved out of Arizona, and it became clear to me that pursuing my education online through Grand Canyon University wouldn't necessarily be the best platform for me, so I switched to CBU just because they had a different kind of program, different kind of courses, and all around it seemed more suited to my needs and what I would need as I was transitioning into this new phase of life. So that's kind of my background, that's where I'm coming from, and this is where a lot of those thoughts and ideas come from. So I've made a list on my phone, and we're gonna start with the pros. So the first pro is that you get to make connections to people in the field. A lot of my professors at Grand Canyon University that I met in person actually were in the field. I had one professor who was a full-time journalist before becoming a professor, and they had all kinds of crazy stories about pursuing a lead on a story or traveling the world, doing global kinds of things to get information and interviews and all kinds of stuff, and they had a lot of great feedback about what it was like working for a professional daily publication. I had another professor who owned her own business and used her writing and English degree to market and promote her business, and she gave me a great example of what it means to use English degrees for something outside of strictly writing. You can use it for marketing or communications or any kind of related field. A lot of English majors nowadays actually can go into social media marketing and social media management because we can write social media posts like no tomorrow. And I just met a wide variety of people who were published or had been self-published or worked for a publication like a newspaper or a magazine or a journal, or maybe were professional bloggers before they became professors. And I think a lot of those connections became really valuable to me, especially when we had events that we got to go and have visiting authors come in and lecture to us or talk to us about those kinds of things. And even now, as I am pursuing my degree online through Cal Baptist, I have met a lot of I have gotten to interact with and engage with a lot of different people who are in the field, different professors, teachers who have a lot of experience and experience that they can pass on to me, and maybe words of wisdom or advice that they wish they would have had. And I definitely really appreciated that. And that is a huge pro of being an English major in college if you want to pursue writing as a professional career. The second pro I have is that you get to build up your repertoire. I've recently been in the job hunting trenches, which is very very difficult. I do not like job hunting. I would much rather have a job and just do my job, but job hunting is a part of life, I guess, if you want to have a job. And one of the things that I had to do for a job that I applied for was put together a portfolio of all of my writing. And this included academic writing, business writing, social media writing, professional writing, personal writing, business writing, letter writing, all kinds of writing. And because of all the essays and assignments that I'd had in my writing courses through college, I already had that repertoire put together, that portfolio put together, and it was really easy for me. Plus, all of those pieces had been looked over and edited by my professor or by a TA or by a assistant to the teacher, and they already had all the feedback put into them, and so they were polished. I'd gotten good grades on them, and I knew that they were competent, good examples of my writing that I could be confident in sharing with a potential employer. So having that opportunity to build and expand my writing while being under the tutelage of a professional writer was extremely important, because it's one thing to write something for yourself and edit it for yourself and then submit it off into the world and be like, I think I did a good job. And it's an entirely different thing to have somebody else look over your writing for you and give you professional feedback, someone who's been in that industry. And that just gives you this whole level of confidence when you are submitting those kinds of things to maybe jobs like social media manager or writer or copywriter, for all different things if you're interested in pursuing writing related jobs outside of maybe publication for a book or your own personal writing. Another pro that I have here is that you can gain an experience in a wide variety of fields. And this specifically has to do with my studies that I did at Grand Canyon University. If you saw my video from, I believe it was last year, called What I Learned This Semester at College, I did a recap of everything I learned in my writing related classes for that semester. And one of those things was that I had taken a professional writing class, and that meant anything from resumes to business letters to projects and reports for like businessy things. It's really boring and nitpicky and blah. But I got to gain experience in that kind of writing. I got to practice social media marketing offline before I went and started doing social media marketing online, which is kind of something I dabble in now. And I learned all about what that means, and I got to do it under, again, the tutelage of a professional, of someone who really knew what they were doing in that category. But I really just got to experience what it was like to maybe work in a business room. The course was designed to have 2 weeks devoted to different kinds of professional writing. So that might be PR responses for 2 weeks. Another one might be actual, businessy stuff like writing rejection letters or cover letters, or resumes or potential job application questions, coming up with things like what you would ask on a questionnaire if you were an employer looking to hire a new employee. And I just got to learn all these different styles of writing, avenues where I didn't even think writing was relevant. To be honest, when you think about business, at least when I used to think about business, I just thought mostly of numbers. And I had no idea that writing was actually an extremely relevant part of most business management. And I met a lot of business majors through that class who were also required to take it, who weren't majoring in writing. And I think that was very interesting. You can also learn about creative writing, poetic writing, classical writing, academic writing. So you just kind of get exposed to a lot of different fields. And through that class, I actually learned that I really enjoyed business writing, which is something I didn't think I would enjoy doing. And I was actually pretty okay at it. So that's just a new skill that I was able to develop and acquire alongside having a professor, kind of tutor me and explain to me what I was doing to help me develop that more than I would necessarily if I was just trying to dabble in it on my own. And that was definitely a huge benefit of choosing to be an English major in college. And the last pro that I'm going to mention today of being an English major is actually being exposed to a lot of literature. When you are an English major, most of your homework is either reading or writing. And through my English major, I've actually been exposed to a lot of different literature. I've been exposed to classic literature, modern literature, literature from different time periods and cultures that I didn't even know existed prior to taking this course. And I feel like it has really enriched my view of culture and of art and all these kinds of things. And if you know me, you know that I love to study, if that even makes sense. My favorite TV show is Jeopardy! No shame, I like trivia. And I'm very much into, just learning and soaking up and absorbing knowledge. So being exposed to all of those different kinds of literature, kinds of reading, poems, essays, articles, books, things that I probably wouldn't have been exposed to if I hadn't been an English major. So it really just expanded my appreciation for a lot of different genres. Maybe I discovered a couple of genres that I really didn't like along the way, but mostly I think I learned and grew and found a lot more about writing to love than I had just from maybe reading YA books. All right, so now is the boring part of the video where I have to get into the cons list of what it means to be an English major in college. And again, this is just my own personal experience, and everyone's college experience is different, and this just happens to be mine. And this isn't in any way derogatorily related to any university I have attended or mentioned on my internet presence. So this is all just a very general view of being an English major. So my first con is that grades can be subjective. And this is something that I think even begins in high school when you're taking English classes in high school that you have to take for general ed purposes. A lot of times, just as we book reviewers will review a book negatively or positively based on how we personally felt about it, sometimes personal opinions can also affect grading. And that doesn't mean that it should, but it does mean that lots of different professors look for lots of different things. You might have one professor who focuses very heavily on your use of metaphors and similes, and then you might have another professor who actually marks you down for using metaphors because they prefer that you just speak straight and say what you're thinking instead of using artistic prose to get that point across. And I don't think this is so much of a con as it is just a learning lesson that when you're in college, it's important to look up your professors and really figure out what kinds of things all the professors are into. When you read their syllabus, when you read the rubric, the grading for each assignment, what is that professor specifically looking for in that assignment? Because all professors are different. A great example of this is that one time I had a professor who didn't really like writing a thesis very much, as in like an introductory statement to your essay, as like thesis statement kind of thing. They preferred that your thesis be more artistic and interesting and really hook them in, as opposed to you just saying, this essay will be about da 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 da. So I learned through that course to be very artistic and to come up with a really interesting hook for each of my essays and find something exciting that I could use, something interesting, something that I could grab the reader's attention with to make it really creative and exciting and different than just your run-of-the-mill introductory thesis statement for an academic essay. The next semester, I thought I was doing really great with my writing until I got a C back on one of my papers because the professor hates artistic language. The second professor I had was not at all into creative writing in any way, shape, or form. They were very much a straight-laced English professor. They liked everything by the book, grammatically, style-wise, everything had to be very straightforward, no necessarily prose or fancy hook or engaging writing, and that was very difficult for me because I'm a very flowery person when I write anyways, so having to literally streamline everything I wrote to fit that professor's, what they were looking for in their content, really, was a difficult thing. But again, that's a learning lesson more than just a con necessarily. Just like we book reviewers all are interested in different genres, professors may have different expectations for your writing, and that's just something that, you need to be able to adapt to. Another con is that English majors can be, at least they were for me, surprisingly time consuming. I'm used to being able to pump out an essay in 1 or 2 hours, turn it in, and get a great grade on it. And that's just how I've always been at school. But I have discovered through college that it's a lot more time consuming than you think it is. For instance, I had to read a 600-page book in 2 weeks, and it wasn't the fun kind of 600-page book. It was a 600-page book of very, very old style speaking and literature and topics and da 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 da. So it wasn't very easy reading, it wasn't light reading by any means, and it was incredibly difficult. And that meant that for those 2 weeks, I was literally just locked into my house. Not only did I have to read this book in 2 weeks, but I had to do a comprehensive analysis of this book in a 6 to 10 page essay. So that was a lot. That's just one of those things that for me is just a part of the program, but it's something that you should probably know to expect when you're going into the program, that your life will involve a lot of reading. It might not necessarily be fun reading, and it might take away time from reading that you'd rather be doing. So I wasn't able to review as many books that month because I was busy doing my school reading, and that's just a sacrifice that I had to make, and it's not a bad one, and it's just a part of the whole process. Another con is that there can oftentimes feel like college is sucking away your creativity, or at least it did for me, because college writing and academic writing is very straightforward. It's very businessy, it's very professional. There's not a lot of fun you can have with it unless you're in a creative writing class or your professor encourages creative writing. And writing the words can actually be a lot harder than it normally is for you. Like I've said, writing has always come easily for me, but recently in some of these academic papers that I've had to write, the words have come very slowly, and that's just because that sometimes it's boring. But that's just the truth of it. Sometimes what you're writing about or what you're reading isn't always what you want to be reading, and it can cause you to lose interest. You can feel like there's not a lot of creativity, there's not a lot to, really get excited about, and that can kind of drain you a little bit. And I think that's true of any field of study, is that when you spend so much of your time absorbed in it and like just with your head in that headspace, then you can start to feel a little bit bored or a little overwhelmed or a little bit constricted by whatever measures are placed on you by your professors and your society around you and all of that kind of thing. And that's just something that, I had to deal with. And know that it is okay to take breaks. It's okay to not necessarily feel like you're enjoying college every so often. I mean, it is a lot of hard work. It's not going to be all fun and games all the time. So it's okay to feel overwhelmed. It's okay to say those things and have those feelings. You will get through it. It will become easier. If it doesn't become easier, you will at least graduate sometime soon. You will get to that finish line. You will cross it. And that's just something that, despite the hard times, like I've said, despite how sometimes it can feel like you're just being a little bit constricted, strangled, drowned by all the expectations, you will get through it. And that is the pro to that con, is that there is an end in sight. You will get through it. And the last con I have is really just a little bit of a personal beef with academic writing as a whole. Aside from logical appeals, I feel like I don't really learn that much from academic writing other than how to convince a professor that I know what I'm talking about in 2,000 words or less, as well as different logical appeals. I took a writing course about academic writing. And we learned about how you either use logos, ethos, or pathos. Forgive me if I'm saying those wrong. That's how my professor said them. And those are like the logical appeals, where you're either appealing to logic, emotions, or the ethics of the reader when you're writing something. And that's kind of, if you look carefully, I'm going on a side tangent here, but if you look carefully in every essay or persuasive piece of work, the author is either appealing to one, two, or all three of those appeals. They're either appealing to your emotions to get you emotionally invested in something, or they might be appealing to your logic and your reasoning to get you to realize that something isn't right or that something is right, or they might be appealing to your ethical side. And that's basically all I've learned about academic writing, is that when you're writing academically, to use those appeals to your advantage in your style and in your voice. But other than that, all academic writing is just that. It's academic writing. Nobody writes essays unless you are a professional student or scholar or educator. Nobody really writes essays full time. They write things like news articles or blog posts or newspaper things or social media blurbs or fiction. And academic writing is a very specific form of writing. And like I said in the previous con, it can bog you down with the details, the citations, all of that kind of stuff. So unless you're, pursuing a career where you'd have to write for a lot of academic journals, academic writing isn't necessarily going to be something that you do full time. But academic writing is something that you're going to probably be doing the most of as an English major. As an English major, in my third year, I still haven't had the opportunity outside of, writing social media posts or writing different business writing to even touch creative writing in any of my fields. And when I say creative writing, I mean general fiction writing. And I think that that's just part of being a student. And while I would love to have more opportunities for creative writing in my courses, most of my courses have been academic writing. And for me, that has been kind of a con, because my favorite courses have been the one where I've gotten to pursue writing outside of academic writing. Like I said, that professional writing class where I got to do PR responses or social media management posts or different kinds of writing were really fun for me, because we got to be very creative with the projects as opposed to just writing reports or essays on topics that were pre-designated for us. Not gonna lie though, some of my academic writing pieces have been some of my best written works, and I have loved them so much. I still talk about them, I still put them in my portfolio, and I just enjoy rereading them a lot. So that's not to say that academic writing is bad, it's just to say that there's a lot of it, and my university that I started my major in didn't offer a creative writing program, so I wasn't able to pick a lot of creative writing classes. If you are at a university where you are specifically majoring in creative writing, then I fully expect that you'll probably have a very different experience, and you'll probably have a lot more opportunities to learn actual creative writing and stuff like fiction and all those kind of fun little things. So that's just my experience. Are you starting college this fall? Are you freaking out about it? Are you losing your mind? You will be okay, but if you want to talk about it, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to check out all my social media links and message me all over there. I have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on Instagram the most, and on Instagram I post daily Bookstagram photos and pictures of what I'm doing with my life. I also have a blog where I post book reviews and occasional writing updates, so if you want to go and check that out, that's something I also recommend that you subscribe to. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up if you'd like to see more content like this, and subscribe as always. My name is Jenna Van Mourik. I'm an inspired writer and an inspirational fiction reader who reads, writes, and lives for Jesus. Thank you all so much for watching. If you've had a similar college experience, I would love to know about it. Again, let's chat in the comments. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!